Hello, welcome back to the Land Rover show, and we're working on the steering today. So if you're watching this video again, this is part number 36, and I originally filmed 36 and about tie rods and steering knuckles and tie rod ends and tie rods. So in my video, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. And well, to the one fella and everyone else I've heard also is that these are the original tie rods, okay? These are my new replacement tie rods. And you see the flat right here and the flat right here? This is the reason why I'm refilming this. Here is a Series 3 or a later, I think it's after 74 or 75, they went to an all-thread tie rod, where the early ones had a flat here and then all the threads. You can see here from my original one. So I originally put these on and in this film, number 36, and a gentleman, thank you very much for pointing it out, that these are not safe and they're not accurate. And they're not, it's really not safe because it grips at the end, this clamp. There's no threads up in here. And then there's threads down here. So up here is actually clamping down onto the flat. See this flat right there? So if you use a later one, a Series 3, or I keep saying Series 3, but it's a 2A or 3 or whatever, that have full threads, then you're going to actually be gripping onto the threads and not the flat. So this is the reason why I'm redoing this video, number 36. And thank you very much. I appreciate the comments and the likes and subscribes and the comments that help me out, to straighten me out, so I'm doing things straight and right on this channel. It is very helpful. I like to say thank you again. And plus, I don't want my channel to have anything that isn't accurate or correct or anything. So I don't want to put any false information out there or anything. Plus a safety reason as well. So I'm refilming it. But anyways, let's get to the topic. All right, so these are the new tie rods. Let's get these out of the way because these aren't the right ones. So we'll take them and put them over there. These will be up for sale someday, along with tons of other parts. All right, so the nice thing I like about the new ones that come with, it comes with a Newcastle nut and a washer and cotter pin to lock it in. These ones here, which you've seen on a lot of other cars, I've seen them, but they use nylon lock nuts on the end, which they work, they're safe, and they're accurate, they're okay to use or whatever. But I think that this just looks so much classier whenever you have the original like this with all these pieces and parts. So I ordered 6. I got 3 right hand, 3 left hand, and I know they're BritParts, but anyways, it is what it is. So I'm going to put these back together and install them back onto the truck. Okay, so I got the tie rods on, and I already measured them before the previous time. Before I took them apart, I measured the lengths of them. So I put them at the exact same lengths as they were before, but I'll get an alignment down the line, or I'll do a self-alignment, and we'll see how it goes with that. But all right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the steering. Let's get this straight. All right, so you can see here, this arm is straight, parallel with this beam. And then this, it's a weird thing. Another thing from the previous video is a gentleman said that this should be 81 degrees from this arm to this arm, according to the Bentley manual. Not Bentley, Bentley's German. So from the repair manual. This looks like it's almost like 91 degrees, and I never took this off, and this is original to the truck, so I'm not messing with this pivot or these arms here. So with this straight and this where it was originally, which looks to be almost 91, but in the early manuals they just showed it perpendicular to each other, so I'm not really concerned with it. So If you have a later one, it calls out actually 81 degrees between these two. But I've never taken these apart, both of these, this arm and this arm. So I'm leaving those stock with whatever way it was originally. So from there, now we have our wheels are straight and everything is straight. So from here comes back to our steering box. So what I want to do now is center up my steering box. So this is how I did it. Put the steering wheel on and you turn the wheel all the way to the left or to the right, doesn't matter. So you put it here and then you spin and you count how many times it goes around. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 turns from lock to lock, from left to left. And that is with nothing attached to it. The steering actually is not attached to it at all. So then, let's come back 2 turns. 1, 2. And I actually already put the tape on here. So this is the vertical, this is the center. This should be vertical. And what I do is I have the pinch bolt down at the bottom, down here. So the steering wheel is straight. And now the steering box is set in the center. So now we're centered up with the steering box. We have this centered up as good as we can. This parallel with it in here. So this arm was, I think, was 24 inches last time. So that's where I just set it the same. So now you can kind of see here, the arm is now set up with the tie rod here. So they're dead on right now. So whenever I was cleaning this, I took off this arm. So I didn't know where it went back on. So that's what I did. I centered this up, put all the suspension back, the steering back together, and I slid this on to a groove that met up with this. So then I'm going to actually take this off and paint it and clean it all up a little bit more. So that's our steering and it's straight. I'm gonna put this on, tighten that up with the nut washer and cotter pin, and look at that. That just looks great with the way it looks. And now it matches all my other hardware that I'm using, which is zinc coated. Okay, so the steering is now set back up, and I still have all this is dry inside. There's no lube in there or nothing. So tie rods are done. So the next thing I'm going to go to is the shocks. All right, so we're going to move over to the shocks now. So they were actually delivered the other day, the front shocks and the rear shocks. And here I'll tell you about what I decided to do and what my train of thought was. So these are Monroe. Here's my piece of paper from the previous video, which I think is number 32 or 33, I think, of the shock dilemma started. I think it was 33, actually. So, front shocks, these are the measurements that I did, the kind of shock that I needed. So what I found was Monroe shock 37114 OES OE Spectrum is what it's called. So this is the black one here. And what it does, it goes onto, just as it says here, 3/4 diameter rod. And nice thing is it came with bushings, the top bushings, and top both washers as well. So I'll show you how to install these, but I'll probably only have to use one and not have to use the other one because it won't fit on there on a Land Rover. But anyway, so it comes with rubber bushings in this. So this is a Monroe shock, which I really like Monroe shocks. They're very good quality shocks. So in my search, so that's the front one. And the rear one, oh, also I bought these off of Rock Auto, which they were only like $20 a piece or something like that, or $18 a piece. So then with shipping and everything, it only came to, I don't know, roughly like $45 or something for 2 brand new shocks for the front. So the back, this is where I was having some dilemmas here. I was looking at Monroe shocks, and I had different ideas of maybe welding on brackets for the rear shock, and all these ideas were running through my head. So what I ended up doing was biting the bullet and bought expensive shocks. I was trying to get cheaper Monroe shocks, but the end result is that it would have been just too much of a pain in the butt. So what I did is they're called BritPart. Yes, I know the name BritPart. I don't want to hear it. All right, BritPart, BritPart cellular or cellular dynamic shocks. BritPart number DC6014. So these are the shocks I ended up getting. A lot of them were suggested. Well, I found them on websites and stuff in the UK. And they, just like the front shocks, they come with all the bushings and everything to install it, and a nut for the bottom here and all that kind of stuff. So this has a lot more movement in it, like the compressed and extended lengths to it. Same with this too. This has a lot of movement in it. So I decided to go with this because I don't want... The reason why I went with these shocks, different kind of shocks, is a lot of people get Pro Comp shocks or Pro Comp 3000s or S1000 3000s or something like that. There's so many bad reviews on them that I didn't even want to buy them. So what I ended up doing is I ended up buying these two shocks instead, which are probably ended up costing a little bit more, but I wanted quality more than just some other type of shocks. And they're actually flipped over and everything, the Pro Comps and everything. And plus, they don't even have, like, this has like a nice metal covers on them. The Pro Comp ones have like a big plastic or rubber thing that goes over top of the shock part and stuff like that. They're just really crappy looking in my opinion, but to each their own. I'm not saying nothing. So these ones ended up being $60 a pop, the rear ones. So, and plus from the UK, and I added on some new shock bolts too onto the order, so then I can replace the rusted out ones, and then a gas cap, rubber seal. So ordered a couple things with it, so I didn't feel like I was just buying shocks for the shipping and everything. So these are the two shocks I'm trying out here, Monroe and BritPart. So I'm going to go over to the truck and I'll show you each of them on there and see if they'll fit. Alrighty, here we are on the front. So you can see it fits onto the top bushing just fine. And you can see here's the bottom, where the bottom goes. You can see we have roughly, I don't know, about 3 inches of movement up and down. So then let me push the shock up. And you can see there, we have about roughly, I don't know, another 3 inches up. So we have 6 inches of travel basically up and down for the front. So I think the front shock, here it is there, it'll match up with that just right there. So I think we got a good shock for the front. So I think it's going to work out just fine using this one. Let's move on to the back. All right, so here we are in the rear. Here. The shock mounts up on here at the top. Okay. I think you should be able to see that in the shot, but you can see it fits down to there, and that's how much play we got. So if we take the top off, you can see we can move it all the way down about that far, at least. That much, I don't know, maybe about 3 inches, 4 inches of movement right there. So let's go up to the top. Let's take the shock the other direction. Lift it all the way up to the top and see how far it goes above the mount. Yeah, see, that's a lot of movement in there. You can see there, you can see how much higher it is from the mount from there to there, which is another 4 inches there we have to move up and down. So we have a lot of movement with this shock, which is good. So the rear ones, I think they're going to be good. It actually has a lot of pull to it up and down, so it makes it pretty difficult to move. So I think it's going to be a pretty good shock for the rear. Okay, so there's the back. So the rear shock's on. And of course, I cannot live with this color. I cannot live with an orange shock, especially if I have a black one on the front. So I'm going to paint this, just do a quick paint of this to make it all black so it'll match everything underneath. And the shocks will be done. So I'll show you them all installed and everything next. Okay, got the shocks on. And front shocks are on, bolted in here. This is the washer that came with it, so I could use it for the top. But on the bottom, Land Rover uses a washer, their own washer, which is has a 3/4 inch hole in the middle and a cotter pin. So what I did to get this in there is I took a wrench and I held it over top of it and I pushed in real hard while my son slid in the cotter pin. So it was pretty tough. I had to push that on there as hard as I could for him to get that in there, and then I bent the ends out. So front shock is on. So here's the rear shocks. Rear shock's on. You can see what I did. You can see I put a little coat of black paint on, gloss paint, so it matches the front. And I used the washer that came with the front shocks because it came with two big washers. So I used the polyurethane bushings up there and the polyurethane bushings that came with the shocks here. So I'm happy with the shocks being all done. So those are all done. Both sides are painted, both sides are on. Same with the front, both sides are on. So the next project I'm working on is going to be the drive shafts, and I'm going to be pressing out. I'm going over to a friend's house to get, he has a press, so it'll make it a little bit easier to get the U-joints out. So I'm going to get the U-joints out of here, and also the ends. If you remember in the previous video, I said about freewheeling hubs. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to switch over, put the freewheel hubs in a box just to save them for later, but I'm going to go back to stock right now. And the problem with that is that this was sitting with no oil on it for 25 years out in the field. This is the inside of the front. So, in turn, these threads got all messed up. They're all rusted and everything here. This is good. It's a shame because it's like a good shaft or whatever, but the threads are all messed up on the end. So one of the local Land Rover guys in Pittsburgh, I got this one off of him, and I'm going to use this one because you can see the threads are perfect on the end. It's also another perfect 10 spline end. And you see this one? See, it's just a mess. I can't put a nut on there or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press out the U-joints on both of these and swap these ends out. So then I can use my original one drive shaft here with this and everything. So and then this, I got new U-joints. So I'm going to press all these out. I took all the clips out already. So these are done and ready to go. So that's my plans are next to do this. So the pieces and parts, I'll go over it more whenever I put the front end back together with the end plates and all that kind of stuff. I also got these off of them, the end plates and those, and the bolts and hardware to bolt these things on. No, actually to bolt these on, the bolts for that, Whitworth bolts. So this, I got brake lines coming, so I'm going to do another video of this. So this will be the end of the video for today. So thank you very much for watching. A lot of information about shocks, probably more, and about steering more than you really need to know, but that's okay. But anyways, thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. Thank you very much, and have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.